Thank you, Susanna. I'm so excited to be here. So Say Kid, it basically combines voice technology with tangible play to help kids learn in a safe, natural, and engaging way. Um, so I'm particularly excited to be here because, as I understand, this is the first time there's been a discussion about early education and the first time there's been a discussion about voice technology. So my main objective here is to not screw it up. But I thought I'd start with a story about why I'm here, and it's a story about truth. A few years ago, my son had this great teacher. He was in preschool. I couldn't have told you why the teacher was so great, but I could have told you that my son loved school. He loved to learn, and he even named his fish after this teacher. Uh, Unfortunately, that teacher left, and the teacher that replaced his old teacher didn't have the same tools or training, and really took kind of a punitive approach. And at the time, it was really hard for me to understand how the approach could really make him feel smaller than he already was. And so we started getting behavior reports, and ultimately this voicemail. Let me go ahead. Give me a second. All right. Just restarted my little clicker. Let's see if this works.
Hi, Dawn. I've been with Cal most of the day today, and he is totally out of control, disrespectful, disobedient. I need you to come and get him, and he is not going to return. I hope you understand. Thank you. Bye.
So at that moment, I felt as if I had just failed as a parent. In education, there's this saying that a parent is a child's first teacher. And so I decided to try to become the best teacher that I could be. I immersed myself in the research. I met with experts. I spent time with teachers, spent a lot of time in classrooms. And the deeper I went, I started to realize that our education system isn't working. And I was surprised to find out that you could fill an entire football stadium full of kids that are expelled from preschool every year. And moreover, there's a lot of kids that aren't able to access early education because it's cost prohibitive. So they're not even invited to the game. The deeper I went, the more I realized our education system is broken. And the truth is that many kids don't feel heard, and many adults aren't listening. So today, I want to share with you a little bit about why I think voice technology can help kids feel heard while also helping adults be better listeners. We know that kids often learn best through play. So I'm going to show you how voice technology combined with tangible play, looks like this, can help kids play to learn while adults learn to play. So let's start with why kids aren't feeling heard today. All right. So for context, most kids say their words by around their first birthday, but they're really not speaking sentences until around age 3. And this is the point when kids' language starts to explode. It's when kids start to learn about talking about feelings. It's when kids start to learn how to relate to others. It's when kids start to learn to trust other adults. The truth is, though, that it's really hard for young kids to talk about feelings because they haven't yet developed the social skills or the language skills to actually communicate how they're feeling. So it's really imperative that we, as adults, be really good at being able to listen. And let's move on. All right. So the problem is, we don't necessarily make it that easy for adults to have the tools or support to be able to do that. So let me give you some context. In the United States, the average early educator makes around $12 per hour. That's about 25% less than they could make at a fast food restaurant. And so not surprisingly, if you're a provider, it's really hard to attract the best educators. It's really hard to invest in their development. It's really hard to retain them. And so I would love for everybody to just imagine that you have a business and every year, 40-50% of your staff turn over. Imagine like what that does to a growing business, and then think about what that does to a growing brain. I believe that if we want to help kids feel heard, we need to find a way to better support educators. However, adults, like parents, also play an important role. Learning doesn't start or end in a classroom. And so we have to find a way to support parents. You may know that the US is the only country that doesn't have a federal parental leave policy, and we have one of the lowest rates of early childhood education in the world amongst industrialized countries. And so it's really important that adults have the support, whether educators or teachers have the support we need to be able to really be able to truly listen. And that's the real context here. So let's move on. Moving. All right, so I want to share with you, this is often what it feels like, I think, to be a working parent, at least in the US.
I think one of your...
Okay. Try it again.
I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me.
That's right,
Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months to a year because.
All right. So what's interesting is this is before COVID. So this is probably the time that I should probably remind you that my kids actually may interrupt us at any time here. So now that we've talked about, I guess, why kids don't feel heard, I'd like to just switch gears a little bit and talk about technology, and especially child-facing technology. So, because I think there's a really good question of, can technology actually help? I'm sure many people are aware that the World Health Organization, American Academy of Pediatrics, recommend that kids under age 6 spend no more than an hour per day in front of screens. And this is, high quality content. This is co-viewing. But you may be surprised to learn that the average kid spent almost 2.5 hours per day in front of screens. And this is before COVID. And after COVID, screen time more than doubled. And so you might be wondering or asking, is screen time really that big of a deal? And some of you may remember this public service announcement from, I think, the 1980s, where it showed what our brains look like on drugs. And so, the egg in the frying pan, I wanted to show what our brains look like on screens. And so here you have a kid, and this is a kid in front of a screen. And this is what kids' brains look like on screen. So on the left is the brain of a child that's often read to, and on the right is the brain of a child that spends a couple hours per day in front of a screen. And in the blue, what you see are the neural pathways associated with language and literacy. Think of these as like our information highways that we want to be really organized and really focused. On the left, you see the child's brain is far more tight, far more organized, far more efficient than the brain on the right, which is much more sporadic. So let's move on here. Now, I'm not saying all technology is bad for young kids, but I do believe a lot of it is. And there's actually a recent journal article in the Journal of Children and Media, Child and Media, that was published last month, that basically looked at the top 100 apps in the Google Play Store and the Apple Store as well. And what they found is a lot of the apps aren't necessarily educational. And in particular, almost 90% of them prevented an opportunity for kids to have social interaction, which is not only important for child development, but it's also important for helping kids feel heard. So the truth is that most technology isn't really designed for young kids. Touch interfaces aren't natural, rigid form factors aren't playful, and visual content can often overstimulate kids rather than actively engage them. And so I believe more often than not, technology is used to keep kids quiet than to actually help them feel heard. So the question is, what do we do about it? And this is where I think voice technology is actually really exciting, because for the first time, it's a natural interface for kids to learn. And so what I want to do is just share with you how Say Kid combines voice technology with tangible play to help kids learn in a safe, natural, engaged way, but also help them to feel heard. So I'm going to share with you a few examples. So how we got here was a few years ago, Alexa was just starting to take off, and literally my son dreamed about playing with toys. And so I thought, if we could combine voice technology in the form factor of a plush toy, we could help kids, all kids, feel heard. And so this is what it looked like. Basically, we designed it to be a toy robot. So we called it the toy robot, or we called it the toy bot rather. And let me show you how it works. This is Cal playing the letter game.
Do smart and s'mores. Start with the letters SM or SH.
SM.
You've been working hard. Let's try another. Do stone and story. Start with the letters ST or SH.
ST.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. 10 in a row. Way to go.
All right, and so we never really started with the technology. We started with the science of what kids need to succeed and how to develop. And so at around that time, we were really fortunate to start getting recognized by Harvard and Penn. And in fact, the letter game actually won the Alexa EdTech Challenge. So then we thought, all right, we've demonstrated that we can help kids learn through play. And the cool thing about robots is they don't have feelings. So I thought, what better way to help kids feel heard than actually empower them to play the role of teacher? So let me show you what it's like for a 7-year-old to teach the robot, what it's like to be a 7-year-old with 2 younger brothers.
I love being 2 years old because every day I learn something new. I also get free admission to the train museum. I'm curious. How old are you?
7.
Wow, you are so old. What's it like to be 7?
It's like you have to be the leader of everything.
I love that. All right, and so moving on, we started to think about, all right, we've shown that we can help kids build early literacy skills and social skills. And so we wanted to see if we could help kids build executive function skills and gross motor skills. And so here's, and just for context, one of the best ways to build executive function skills is through games. Think of like freeze dance. So let me show you how we do that.
Match me and act like a robot DJ. Freeze. Spot anyone moving?
No.
Keep up the great dance moves. Now let's mix it up. Dance only on your tiptoes.
All right. I love how she even froze her mouth. So then we started asking educators and parents, what are the hardest parts of the day? And we heard about transitions and cleaning up. And so we wanted to see if we could build a cleanup game where kids could teach the robot how to clean up. And so let me show you what we did. And I'll talk through we're going to speed it up here and show how it works.
This set of instructions says to put away anything that is smaller than a cat.
Plants.
So basically the robot's saying, hey, my memory card is broken. I forgot how to clean up. Will you teach me? Kids say yes. And then it'll say all these different random instructions, put away things that are smaller than a cat or bigger than a dog or the color of the rainbow or what have you. And it's kind of crazy, actually. It comes in handy when you've got 3 young kids at home. But basically, kids teach the robot about cleaning up. and it also reduces friction in a really hard part of the day for some folks. And so lastly here.
Give someone a hug for a great effort.
Oh my gosh, we did it. Sweet.
So as I mentioned before, education is all about relationships. And so we designed all of our interactive experiences to be played in a group. And so this is a really simple would you rather game that not only helps kids feel heard, but also helps adults to learn what kids are interested in. And I honestly, I think this is the thing that I wish that we would have had back when my son was in preschool. So let me show you.
Would you rather play a zither or a xylophone?
Zither.
That was a tough one. Give me a hug as you pass me. Would you rather own a harmonica or a guitar?
A Monica.
All right, so now that I've shown you what's possible, let's talk about what's next. So unfortunately, our education system hasn't really been working for kids or adults for some time. And I don't believe technology is going away. I do believe voice technology has potential to change education by helping kids play to learn while adults learn to play. And in doing so, I think help really everyone to feel heard. So I started the discussion here with a story about why I'm here. And so I thought I'd end with a story of why I think we're all here. And this one is about Will. When my son was about to enter kindergarten, we asked to meet with his future teacher. And her name was Miss Nagel. And when we described everything that my son had been through, she looked at us and she said, "I will not give up on your son." And I've never been able to forget that because we had heard that before. And so my natural instinct was to say, you really seem like a nice teacher, but I don't believe you. And so that's when she looked at me in a way that only a kindergarten teacher would do, such like when a kid does something that they know they weren't supposed to do. And she said to me, "I will do whatever it takes." And that's just something I haven't forgot, because she kept her word. And this is the two of them on the last day of kindergarten. And I think that's what it's all about. I think the truth is, in education, kids need to feel heard. And I think adults must be willing to listen. Thank you for attending the talk. And I'm going to do a Q&A session where we literally can play with this toy bot. So hopefully you'll join us. If you have any questions, this is my contact information, and I'd love to hear any feedback that you have. And we're excited to continue learning with you. Thanks.